Everyone loves an underdog story, don't they? Well, you're about to see one of the greatest of all because we're revisiting one of the best Shark Tank pitches from 2012 that only proved their mettle several years later. I think there's some really interesting lessons we can glean from this as it regards to business and just how far your understanding of the market goes in lending that self-confidence as an entrepreneur. This is not financial advice, but subscribe to the channel and take a look at this before we dive in.
Hi, Sharks. My name is Sabin Lomack.
And I am his younger cousin, Jim Salikas. And together, we are Cousins Maine Lobster.
Sharks, we're here seeking $55,000 in exchange for 5% of our company.
Sharks, at Cousins Maine Lobster, we bring the Maine lobster experience to Southern California, and we do it via our amazing gourmet lobster shack on wheels. We get our lobsters from shore to door in less than 24 hours.
Here's the thing. Right now, we need to add another truck or two because, frankly, we can't keep up with our own demand.
We would love for one of you to join our family business and become the third cousin.
$55,000 for 5%. Basically, you want to buy another truck with my $55,000. You're valuing this business at over $1 million.
You haven't heard a word about the business, Kevin. You have no idea. So what are you worried about the valuation?
They may have 10 trucks. So how many trucks do you have?
Right now, we have one truck.
Ooh.
$150,000 of sales. We've been open 2 months.
2 months?
With one truck.
That's why they say hindsight is 20/20. Those figures do sound astonishing for a completely new brand, right? But it's a great insight to how understanding the broader market condition gives you the greatest leg up on your competition as well as any skeptics you may find on this panel. Interestingly enough, Maine is one of the major landing spots for fish, and lobster controls several things about the fish food market, including the supply, price, and business viability. Here's a graph that shows just how well-timed this pitch was when you consider all of that. Notice that sharp rise in the mid-2000s caused by more efficient fishing methods and warmed waters. Add to this the fact that the coast of Maine is where more than 90% of the nation's lobsters catch come from, and you've got a massive vacuum in market opening up that a new brand like this could exploit. Perhaps the Sharks here didn't immediately see that, which was most evident in the way Kevin O'Leary responded next.
Let's say I want to be in the lobster business. Mr. Wonderful's Lobster, okay? Why don't I just go get a couple of guys with flip-flops on, call up somebody in Maine saying, I've got money, you've got lobsters, and do this whole thing myself. Why are you worth $1.1 million?
You can start your own truck and you can hire your own staff, but what you can't do is what you just said and call up on the phone to Maine. It's not like that.
So you're the only guys, because you've only been in business 2 months, these guys only deal with you now because they haven't been in business the last 50 years.
No, of course. They have.
You are very greedy crustaceans, both of you.
You haven't gotten into the economics per truck.
Right.
You haven't talked about seasonality. You haven't talked about any other cost issues that might come along.
Right, so we're locked into our pricing, and typically prices will rise. With our connections and what we have with our supplier, we're locked in what we're paying right now, we're going to be paying in the winter.
So what are you paying right now on what's the average?
The traditional lobster roll we price at $13.
What's your cost on that?
$5.85.
See, that's more than a 50% margin for profit, only achieved because they had an edge over their competition with the fixed cost. If you're wondering why agreements like this happen and why suppliers agree to set up like this, you need to understand the several factors that impact the supply chain along the way. A supplier like the one in Maine may be willing to forego a part of their profit to sell at a stable price if they fear that increasing lobster supply could eventually lower prices further and hurt their own margin. In a way, it's a way of taking half the risk between the company and the supplier in times of financial stress, while sharing half the profit in times of good business. That was a smart move on both ends because rising supply on Maine's fishing coasts could have lowered the prices further, while for Cousins Maine Lobster, that stable early cost allowed the brand to become profitable quickly. Remember, the food business has one of the highest failure rates for any other sector, so when someone comes to Shark Tank and tells you they've already made $150,000 from a single food truck, they're doing something right. Kevin was giving this duo a hard time for some reason, but we've seen him do that plenty of times before, including super successful pitches like the Ring doorbell, which I own one of, and the Base Paws cat DNA testing kit, both of which were later acquired for a hefty sum by larger companies. With Cousins Maine Lobster, it was able to achieve massive growth and success on its own.
Guys, I asked you the question about the economics of the truck. So please, somebody who might invest, tell me what the economics are per truck.
Okay, so we'll start with how much is a purchase? You buy it for roughly, ours was $65,000.
Okay.
Monthly overhead with our employees, $20,000.
per truck?
Per truck.
Okay.
A month.
A month.
Okay, so 20K per month per truck. If you have more than one truck, does it get amortized across the truck?
The overhead would actually go down a little because we've hired a general manager.
You're not the general manager?
Well, there's a reason why that is because when we got into this business, we knew a lot about lobster. We knew a lot about the service industry. We didn't know a lot about the trucking business.
These guys are talking all kinds of nonsense. You know what? Because you thought it was more important to talk about all the nonsense and couldn't see through the nonsense.
That's not fair, Mark.
I'm out.
I like the idea.
Yes.
And I know this is very hot and people are loving this. Help me get to the $1.1 million valuation. It's so high.
It's so ridiculous, yeah.
It's outrageous what you're asking for. I can't take it anymore. For the sake of lobsters, they're still alive. I'm out.
It's too bad that none of the sharks so far saw the potential for this. There might be a lot of brands that serve the catch out of Maine, but most of them take days to transport and prepare. Cousins Maine Lobster's promising a 24-hour cycle means that it could quickly catch the eye of customers as the freshest in town. Considering how successful it is, it's no wonder that all these unique selling points were able to set them apart. Cousins Maine Lobster has even been listed as the 5th most successful company to have come out of Shark Tank ever. The show caught up with the Cousins about 6 years after the episode aired, and they revealed a massive $50 million worth of sales in just those 6 years.
When we pitched on Shark Tank in 2012, we only had $150,000 in sales.
Now, 6 years later, we've done over $50 million in sales.
With some rough math, that's around $9 million a year, and considering most standard industry valuations are at least 3 times the yearly revenue, Cousins Maine Lobster became a $25 million brand in that short time, and probably a lot larger since. While $55,000 for 5% of the company sounded outlandish at a valuation of $1 million, they had a long road ahead of them to become multimillionaires, and that's a good return on investment for anyone that eventually trusted the Cousins. And one shark on the panel, well, they certainly did.
But for that amount of money, I would like to have 17% of your business.
17.
And you know why? Because 17 is my lucky number.
Our last question. Strategies, thoughts that you guys might have?
The best thing I could do for you, which this guy cannot do, is I am a genius marketer.
There's a reason I'm up here. I don't need to prove what I can do
But they
to
asked
you.
you.
You want to go in and change their business? You
I
need a
help
job,
them.
Barbara?
No.
Go ahead.
I
My
help
offer's off
every
the table.
entrepreneur I'm in
You're
business.
left with Barbara. I have a job.
Robert, you're out?
I'm out.
Barbara, would you consider 12%?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to meet you halfway. $55,000 for 15%. Halfway between the 12 and the 17.
Barbara, welcome to the family.
Thank you.
It's heartening to see something like this because it's the kind of underdog story everyone loves, and it's evidence that even taking a simple enough idea with the right branding and team behind it can blow up to a much larger scale. After that money is just an effect of the business doing so well. Let me know in the comments if you agree, because every business like this is a new template for success in the world of entrepreneurs.